We're back. We're back to working on a 1968 in bright white. The LS model, 6 liter at that. All right, last week we talked about doing a muffler. We just got started on the exhaust system, just a little bit here by the transmission around the motor. I finished that out, at least, tacked it up, run out of muffler pipes and stuff for the other side. I can do that off camera. I don't know, in a week or two or next week when I do it and get the parts, we'll touch on that some more. I'll bring in and show you this. Then we're going to work on getting some of this cleaned up. Not doing a bunch of wiring. We're going to work on the fuel system. So let me get you in, show you what's going on with this, how it's looking. I'm pretty happy with it. So we left off right in this area. You can't really see. Let's get you right in there. We left off in this area last week. We had done this dip. Here, look at that. If you don't mind, like and subscribe. There, I said it. I hope YouTube's happy. We dipped under this shift linkage last week. We were concerned with that. I don't have the shift linkage, not 100% what we're going to use. So I tried to leave a little extra room. When you do that on exhaust systems, it's just troublesome. But anyway, we've tried to stay away from our wires. I will put some heat management. We'll cover that again later. I have other videos on heat management, but I'll wrap this wire at least up to here just because it's, I don't know, it's 2 inches. 2 inches usually safe, but these pipes get hot, and I don't like it making the wires crispy, so we'll just put a little bit on there. Might do this one too. I don't know. It depends on how I feel that day. I like to tinker. Well, we got plenty of room here. We got a little bit of movement we can do even after we weld things up. That's fine. But I keep saying we. It's fun to say we. It's just me. Got back here to this part. So we come through our crossover. This part we showed on the videos way back. And we stay behind this line here, which would be the back of the cab. Now it has the cab mount, which is about 1 inch, and then there is a little dip up, so we have plenty of room, probably more than we need. That's a little ugly. I'm going to clean that up later. We're just tacking things in. I'll full weld. I'll grind off some of this. The last guy's weld doesn't look just wonderful. Make sure it's not going to leak or break. So we just got that tack. That's my ugly weld. Yeah, I didn't do so well on that one, but that one looks good. Anyhow, we go through our little tiny resonator, I call it, little tiny muffler. But I left room here. We can cut it out and put in one of those. Let me show you real quick. It's just right here. I like these. They're cheap. I don't remember what they are. They're less than 30 bucks. But this is a straight through as well. Oh, it's not. Even better. Never even looked in there. Anyway, this is actually a dual chamber. It goes in and uses half and somehow goes through and uses the other half. I thought it was straight through. That's pretty awesome. So that'll be quite a bit quieter than the straight through model we have here. Although I didn't look, it might not be straight through either, but as short as it is, it has to be. But we have room, we can put that in there if he wants it a little quieter. We mentioned before up on this pipe here, we could put that small one up there and put a bigger one back here. Again, Tom, the owner of the truck, said that little one is plenty for him, so that's what we're going to do. But I left provisions so we could go back. Now, there's plenty of clearance underneath the box when that happens. Plenty of axle clearance, just all kinds of clearance in this, except back here. Now, again, I leave provisions. I don't know how well you're going to see in there. I think you can see that tailpipe right there at the end. But I kind of got close, not real close, but to the rear axle. That when you go over a lifting bump, the axle goes down. It might touch that downspout, but I was trying to get the exhaust tip to come out right here. I think you can see that pipe behind the axle, just to shoot it out past between the tire and the gas tank. If you dump it straight out under like back here by the axle, you'll tend to get a swirling exhaust, and sometimes you can smell it inside the cab. Yeah, here goes blinky lights again on that camera. Dang it. I'd get a third camera? All right. We'll move here in a second. If we need to move that, we can tip it down more. We can chop it off. We got options. So that's not a big issue. What I want to deal with on the fuel system, keep moving me back here farther and farther. This was my design of the fuel system. I like this. I don't, I'm not sure Tom loved it, but he pretty much gives me room to kind of do what I want, as long as it's not crazy and isn't what he doesn't want. I guess I could tip that up so you can see me better, not so much of the floor. But this is the fuel pump. Now, a lot of guys like in-tank fuel pumps. They're fine. They're quieter, if you can hear them anyway. But this is a fuel system I used on a 1971 C-10 in Spanish gold. And I've run it, I don't know, a month now? Better than a month. You can hear it when the car is not running. You turn the key on. Sure, you hear a little fuel pump. You can hear the in-tank ones. Yeah, this one's a little louder, but as soon as you touch off the car and it's running, you can't hear it. This one's mounted all the way to the rear of the vehicle. So sitting in the cab, I can't imagine it's even possible to hear it anyway. All the way back here. The location, without dragging out everything that's going on, I was trying to think of you know me, I like to make sure everything can be worked on. So this is behind the rear bumper, which is one of the easiest things to remove on a vehicle. Sure, you can put it on the lift and get underneath and kind of wiggle your hands up through all the stuff and try and get around the exhaust and work on a frame rail. That's fine. But being all the way back here is quieter, and all you gotta do is take 4 bolts out. They're gonna be brand new, and I'm gonna grease them. But 4 bolts off the bumper's gonna comes right off. You just take 4 bolts for the bumper and 1 wire for the license plate light, and you'll have full easy access back here to change your fuel filter, to change the pump if need be, to fix any lines or anything. It's all right here. It's super handy. It's way away from the driver and everything in case of a collision. It will have the full bumper behind it. So again, collision is not any more dangerous than the gas tank 3 inches farther away. So that's why I located it there. So the next part we have to do, get you in a little closer. I know you can see pretty good, but I want you to see better. So let's start right at the suction side of this system. New fuel tank, and I say that because it's kind of important. New fuel tank, new fuel sender. It's got a screen on the bottom of it. Now, out of the fuel sender, we used GM factory style slip clip, crimper clip. I don't know what to call them, but it just slips on there and locks on so that can be taken off really easily. It's got a barbed end on it. I still use a clamp. We come around here, there was just a little, this is pretty tight to the frame. It wasn't designed this way. GM didn't design to have a tank back here. So all we did was just carve out a little bit of the flat spot, which isn't really any structural issue to it. All your strength is on the up and down side, and there's still lots of flat here. I mean, this is why there's anywhere. I put a split piece of rubber hose on there just because I'm Mr. Just in case paranoid. So that tube with the suction tube comes out. And the only suction this pump has to do, because electric pumps aren't good at suction. They're good at pressure pushing. Yeah. Can't see your eyes. Can't see your face when I'm talking to you. There, now I can see you better. So this comes around and it's only got this, I don't know, 2-foot hose. Unless the tank is quarter tank or less, or even a half tank, it's really not sucking. There's not a lot of lift. Lift is what the issue is, like some pump in your house. You don't want more than 10 or 12 foot of lift or so, because the lift is where all that hard suction comes from. This lift is only 4 to 6 inches, and then this is all, horizontal, so it's going to pump easy. It's not going to be a problem. So from the suction side, we just had the short loop into our pre-filter. Now, it's a legit fuel filter. It's black, you can't see it. I think it's only 100 micron. It doesn't really matter. It's a pre-filter for the pump. And now we're to the part we're working on right this minute, where we're going to put the hose here. We're going to run it up to the next fuel filter. You might be able to see it. No, because I moved the camera again. I'll show it to you in a minute. But we have to run up to that one. But it has a secondary filter, which is actually the fuel pressure regulator / filter, does both for the engine. I think they call it a Corvette filter, pressure regulator. A lot of guys use them on these LS swaps. I bought all legit high pressure fuel line, not just high pressure, but like the NASCAR approved slip fittings. Like this fitting here Oh, it's one of these, this style. You can't see it big. So these are press-on hoses fittings that do not require clamps. You can just push a hose right on this thing and not use a clamp. It's got the little collar that tells you when you got it on far enough. But I still use clamps because that's the kind of guy I am. I'm kind of a, belt and suspenders kind of guy. Hat and sunglasses kind of guy. I like that double up everything. So being that we're right here and we're talking about it, let's go ahead and put that clamp on. I'll throw my glasses on, see if I can bang the microphone. I usually do. Oh, I didn't that time. All right, so we'll just put this clamp on there facing the rear. Doesn't really matter. If you take the bumper off, you're going to be able to see it easy. Leave it back a quarter inch or so. Again, it's just double safety, doubling up, making sure we don't have leaks. Speaking of leaks, I haven't tightened them doggone brake lines yet. I won't forget. I keep reminding myself. So that's probably plenty tight for that. All right, so we go through the fuel pump. We have an adapter there, and we go through this check valve. Now, the check valve is to maintain pressure in the fuel system so that when you start the vehicle up, you don't have to reprime the pressure from the pump all the way to the engine. So that check valve keeps pressure in there from going back through the system. Mine doesn't work wonderful in the 71, but so be it. Here's the line that came with this, and it's certainly not going to be long enough. Excuse me. So we're going to take this fitting, another one of these GM fittings here. I don't know what they used. Well, they did use quality clamps and over tighten them, much like I sometimes do. Try not to, but we'll just see if that comes right out. Probably won't. Why didn't I take it out before I started? Because now you guys are watching me. Always watching. Yeah, that was a Monsters Inc. last week. We talked about that. All right, so this, not gonna handy dandy knife right here. I'd rather waste an inch of hose than ruin that fitting. We'll just split that. I said we'll just split that. I just don't want to cut way down into the. All right. I think that hose is getting a little old. She's pretty hard. All right, see, that's got the same barbed ends on it. I don't know if you're supposed to use clamps on those or not. You know we will. Oh, you know what? I already had one pre-ready. Looks like a brand new one too. That's what I would do. I didn't work on this week. Well, not this part. So here's our line. Well, I should talk about, well, I will. So we're working on this back fitting. And while we're here, I just can't seem to, whatever. We're putting this fitting on, we're putting hose on here to this part. We're going to fish through, but this is our return line. It comes up through here. So we have our half hose on there. That's already hooked up, so I don't have to worry about it. I prefer to cut back here. Now this is just a GM slip-on fitting. And I'm just going to tip you up, and I'm not going to move you, but you'll be able to see that fuel pump up there. Yeah. I said pump, I misspoke. Fuel filter and regulator right here. Ground strap on it, all GM fittings on it. I won't have any trouble. That fitting literally should slip on there and click. Let's see if we can hear it. Oh, yeah. Yep, piece of cake. And we'll just fish this fancy hose. I'll make everything look harder than it really is. We're just going to fish this through, and I'll use P-clamps and ties and different things. And get it all through there. This just goes up inside the frame. It's a good safe place for it. Nothing's going to rub on it. And I like to do this before I do exhaust sometimes, usually, just to make sure I can stay away from it. But this is easier to monkey with than exhaust. It just comes through like that. There's nothing to it. It's like pulling a rope through something. It's not a big deal. Should have kept pulling. No, make sure there's no kinks or anything in it. And make sure you have plenty of slack so you can tie that up on the clips in the different places. That looks pretty good. Lots of room in there. We'll come right around to the back. Again, I keep moving you out of the way, get you in so you can see better. Yeah, let's lower you down. So it's that simple. We come right to the back here. This is where this recess spot and then the hole drilled is where our wiring harness is going to go to the rear tail lights and all that stuff. So we want to make sure we have plenty of room around that because it's a plug-in spot. So you don't want this hose going right in front of it. You'd like to leave yourself just a little extra. You can dip down below it. We'll just cut that off right there. And this will be most of our fuel system. Now we could run hard lines and stainless lines. There's a lot of different stuff you can do. For this build, I thought this was going to be just fine. Oh, we'll slip on hard, I forgot. No, that wasn't too bad. And then again, we'll shift and shuttle it whichever way we need to, but there's all kinds of room behind it. This bumper sticks way out, so plenty of room. Tighten it down so I don't forget it. I would do it later, but I said it later. But when it comes to fuel lines and brake lines, if you say later, yeah, that's not usually a good idea. Later sometimes doesn't come. Well, it does. You just forget about it. All right, that is fuel lines are all hooked up. I didn't discuss how this fuel line system works, and I should real quick. So up in here, we were talking about this fuel filter. The fuel filter is both a filter and a regulator, and the fuel comes in that top one, the one with the little blue, and after it reaches a certain amount of pressure, however it works inside of it, it then allows the gas that's overpressured to return to the tank. So you do have some circulation of fuel here. Doesn't really work much for cooling because there's not a lot of heat going on back here, but it does always keep fuel right at hand. Anytime that regulator needs a little more, there's plenty of fuel pressure right there. And then only pressurized fuel goes towards the front of the vehicle. And then the rest just goes that way, like I said. So that's all done. That's all set and put together. As far as the actual fuel line goes, that part's done. So other than that, now I should leave you right over there because you might be able to see better. So what we're going to do now, one thing after another, is figure out how we're going to run this line. I said line. I use the same words. Got the fuel line in the rail. And then we have all this. Lots and lots of wires. We're not even going to get into that. But all this stuff here is one wire. Yeah, it seems kind of silly, but that's just me. We don't know, I know you can't see, we don't know where we're going to mount all the computer stuff. So what we'll end up doing is we're going to fish this line in here. And I'm quite sure I'll be pulling it back out. Nah, probably not. Who knows? We'll see. But we're going to run this fuel wire the same way. And we'll leave a little extra. We can always put a loop in it. Oh, no, the fuel isn't all hooked up. It stops right up here as far as the fuel line goes. I think we deal more with that at another date. And all this, same thing. You can come right up and run along those lines, along that pump. And this is an overkill thing for me too. I use this old wire loom, and then I also tape the wire loom so dirt don't get inside of it. It's a good idea to double up. You know, we're back to that again. Shirt and suspenders. He drives on a dirt road, lives on a dirt road, so I don't want that filling up with dirt and grime and wet mud and what have you. All right, we're up to this point now. Come around this other. We have to figure out the wiring here at the back too. So let's get around there. You get any idea what's going on there? We're going to come all the way to the back here with this fuel line. I'm not going to say it again. I keep saying fuel line. Wire. I'm getting a pretty good feel for how long it needs to be. I probably have way too much here. Just keep routing us whatever way seems the best. It's funny because you got so much room up in the frame, and you put, you know, brake lines in there and transmission lines, you know, a little bit, some places, and you run the wiring, and you run. This has got a line forward and a line backwards for the fuel. Put this wire in there, and we cut the frame down here, so the C-notch, so that does tighten up our area, less frame, open frame to use. But the more you stick in here, and then we have the wiring for the rear of the truck. And pretty soon you're running out of space, and you thought you had plenty. Well, I don't think I got way too much wire after all. We're gonna go through there. It'll fit. It'll fit, and we have room for one more wire, which we're gonna need. I haven't even ordered that wiring harness yet. I haven't talked to Tom this week. I don't think there's a big rush on it, but I say that about everything. Pretty soon, you're waiting on parts. That's just to make sure dirt and debris don't get in the full fuel tank or a mouse. Yep, struggling. Come on. What in the world? All right, getting there. One more little loop to go. I left all of this because I'm fighting, thinking I might need it, and I'm going to probably have plenty. And there we go. Made it to the back. Yeah. I think I got plenty. We go halfway around the front of the truck again. So we left ourselves plenty up front to get to the, yeah, I'm just looking, get to the fuse panel. We had a little loop here. That's fine. I just don't want to cut her short. So we definitely have plenty. Now, you're going to notice here in a second, I have to get some wire cutters, that there's a positive and a negative on that fuel pump. And people will tell you that best to run 2 wires all the way to the back. Well, that's just silly. There's so much grounding in these trucks or in any vehicle. The whole frame is grounded. And if you're talking about an LS swap, you're going to ground the motor to the frame 15 different spots, and there's going to be plenty of grounding. I don't see a reason in it. If Tom wants it that way, we can do it that way. But for right now, we're going to come back right in here. This is just a positive inside of this. I'm going to cut it off a little longer. Better to have too much wire than run short and have to splice it. That's not the name of my game. We'll split that. I still have way too much. I just wasted a little. I'd already taped this, so I'm going to have to re-split it. What I'm going to do, let's split a little more. I'm gonna run this. This is a double coated wire, which is again unnecessary, especially when I wrap this in this double coated wire loom. But there's our wire for the positive terminal on the fuel pump. And then the ground, I'll run, I might run a double ground, but I have to ground the fuel tank, and I'll ground this, and I might run two wires, a ground to this short frame in the back, maybe to the big frame, and then around to that, double it up. Again, no sense in running all the way back to the whole truck. So we'll cut this wire off here. Now, if you just add a little bit of wire, make sure you have a little bit extra everywhere you go, eventually you'll have just way too much wire. Let's put that off. I don't have a crimp pen here with me, but that is the positive. Goes right to the fuel pump. And then next we'll run them ground wires. But give you a pretty good idea what we're doing. I bought some 16 gauge. That's plenty for this, especially if I'm going to double ground it. Some green wire. I might go 18 or 14, but that's too much. Well, that went quicker than I thought for the fuel system. We've got the hoses hooked up. We've got our wire set up here. Got it fished through. I still got to use P-clamps on it. And we'll get that going. And we'll come back up here. I'm going to get the cab. Can't see it. Oh, yeah, there you are. I'm going to get the cab. This is the last hot week we got. It's going to be in the 90s again this week. Couple, 2 or 3 days. Then the following week's in the 70s. So I'm going to get the cab here. I can start doing some measurements. I can start the body work on the cab. We've got to get some of that done before we can put the cab on the truck. Then things will go fast. But all the way up here, the front, you can almost see. We have got, this is the wire that came from the fuel pump. And this is all our fun wire that we have to find a place for up on the fender well or something. So I think we've got about the right amount of wiring there. It looks like a mess, but it's marked. It's going to be fine. I'll spend a little time zip tying this, putting some P-clamps up in on this, getting that tied in good, making sure we have everything tucked away where it's not going to get hot from the exhaust or rubbed on anything with a suspension travel, those kind of things. But that's pretty cool. Fuel system basically done. As far as you guys are concerned, I'll tidy that up. Motor's in, other than when we do the air conditioner, I'll have to pull it. But just lift it up 6 or 8 inches so I can get the lines on. Once we get the cab on, we can start putting the front end together. That's when it's going to start getting fun. Once we get the cab on, we get the inner fenders on, we can start getting the front bulkheads and all that put on. We can have this thing running and driving. Or running, not driving. I misspoke there. I'd like to hear it fire up sometime in the next, I don't know, month or two, just to hear it fire up and run for a minute. That'd be fun. Or maybe I'll do like my truck and just leave it alone until you get everything put together. I know some of you guys would like to hear it sooner than later. People like to fire them up before they're finished. I don't do it very often because there's really no need in it. It doesn't do anything for anybody. Unless you need a little something, a little pick-me-up, a little something to kind of give you more zeal to keep going. That's the word of the week, zeal. Okay, well, that's it for tonight. I'm going to tidy this up. I'm going to hold you guys around for that. And then next week we'll have some more work done on the 1968 C-10 in bright white. Thanks for coming. Appreciate all the new subscribers. You guys are the best. I mean it. Again, bear with me. We're in some slow spots right now. Exhaust work, kind of fun. Wearing, not so much. A little bit of fuel line. We start putting some body parts on, things that start happening a lot faster. But we're winding up the year. We're getting close to harvest time. I am a farmer, so I got a lot of that coming up. I might have to miss a week. I'll try not to. I'll try and do something every week. But if I miss a week, I apologize. But that's what we got going. I got an auger job over here. I'm making an adapter for a local farmer over here. He bought some augers that don't fit his post-old driver. So I got that to finish up. I got a 4-wheel brake job coming in, but I'm going to stay on this project and you're going to see more. Thanks again for coming. We'll see you guys in a week. Thanks for watching me.